Well, on this Sunday, we're at the end of one season and getting ready to go into another one on Wednesday. And in order to maybe get a better understanding of this story of Jesus going up on the mountain with a few of his disciples and being transfigured and radiant in light, it actually may help to look to Wednesday. Because this story always is read every year before Ash Wednesday. And there's a reason for that. And on Ash Wednesday, I think we all know what we're going to do. Today should be Ash Wednesday. It's so gray out there. And it feels like Ash Wednesday today. On Ash Wednesday, we gather. And you know, it's interesting, this idea of having ashes put on your head. I like sometimes to remember, what would it be like to tell someone who knew nothing at all about Christianity? Well, on Wednesday we go and we have ashes put on our head. Yeah. Crazy people, you know. But when we come on that day, we're doing it with a good reason. And it's interesting because this kind of strange practice isn't dying out. It's always been alive in the Catholic and Orthodox Eastern churches, and in our century, in modern times, it's growing. More Lutherans, of course, Episcopalians for many decades now, and last 2 years ago, the Presbyterians from Ambler, the pastor called me. How do we get ashes? He did. You want ashes? Yeah, you know how to get ashes. Tell me. I said, go to the Catholics. The Catholics have the ashes. But more and more people from kind of Protestant and evangelical churches, because there's something significant here and important here. I mean, the ashes on our head is a way of saying, this is going to be me. I'm going to be dust and ashes. And it reminds us of many things, but it certainly tells us that no matter how well we plan and how well we eat and have a great diet and exercise and all the things we can do to provide for our life in this world, and we should do those things. We should eat and drink and be merry when we can and enjoy the gift of life here and the creation and the physicality of it. But it won't last. It won't hold up. It will unravel. And we remember that, not to be morbid, but to say, okay, that's not enough. There's something more for us to talk about. There's another life. There's another thing we need to invest in, as well as the things of this life that sustain us bodily and mentally and emotionally. But there's another way we need to live and invest ourselves. And so we see Jesus going with his disciples, and the context of this is interesting because as he goes up on the mountain, we're told that Peter had just acknowledged that Jesus was the Christ, the Son of the living God. That as Jesus has been going along with them, teaching, healing, Peter is particularly beginning to understand this is something unique. That what's happening in Jesus, this power, this presence that's with him, that's touching people and doing things, and the wisdom that's coming from him, there's never been the like before. And he's beginning to think, this is the Messiah, the anointed one, the one comes to us from God to bring a whole kind of new life to us. And if you remember the story, Jesus says to Peter, yes, Peter, but don't tell anybody. And yes, Peter, but I'm actually going to, in case you get the wrong idea about what this means, that's why you don't tell anybody yet, because you don't understand, I'm going to be handed over to suffering. I'm going to be betrayed. I'm going to be crucified. I'm going to die. I'm going to dust and ashes. I'm going to be buried. And then I'll be raised. And he's speaking to that temptation of wanting religion and the life that we hear about from God to be something that is just all about glory and splendor. And God's Messiah comes and all our enemies are defeated and we live in splendor. And they begin to argue among themselves, James and John, about who's going to be the right hand and the left hand at Jesus' throne. And that's why he has to say these hard things to them. And then he says, if you come with me, just for the sake of my name, you will suffer. And you will be rejected. It's not all about glory and ease and splendor, the power of God. It will lead you into service. It will lead you into hard places. It will lead you into sacrifice. But having said that, Jesus takes them, these three who were kind of the worst of them, glory hounds, and he takes them with him to the mountain, and they see something there. He is, according to Luke, praying, and he begins to be radiant. Not the radiant of eating well and being healthy, having just done yoga. You know, he's radiant with something that's unearthly, with a power and a presence that they've begun to get a sense of that is from God. And Peter's response is, yeah, I was right. Let's just stay here in this glory. I'll build dwellings for you and this vision of Moses and Elijah, all these sort of exalted figures, and we'll just stay here in this glory, and we'll keep coming back to it, and that's what it's going to be all about. We finally arrived, and no. They're going back down the mountain soon, back into struggle, and Jesus shortly thereafter says to them again, the second time, I'm going to be handed over. I'm going to suffer and be betrayed and die. And then I will be raised. I think the invitation to us is to understand that glory, that gift, is very fleeting. It's a little moment they have on the mountain. And it's not a place where we stay. It's not a place where we live. And I hope you can identify moments in your life when you've really felt the presence of God. Where something has happened that's opened your eyes in a new way to a whole nother realm of life. Because our flesh is not enough. And we're being given this little glimpse of glory. And so Peter's letter says, hold on to those little lights, because we live in a dark place. And I know one for me that I have mentioned one other time, I think, on a Sunday, is that twice in my ordained ministry of, 35 or some years, whatever it is, during communion, I was overwhelmed with the presence, the feeling of God's love for His people. It had nothing to do with my feelings or my love. It was this awareness of how much God is overwhelmingly desiring to love you and to bless you and to claim you. And you are His. You are His people. He loves you. And I was just overwhelmed with this as you were coming and humbly kneeling and putting up your hands. And I just felt God's intense pleasure and love. And so I felt that twice in 35 years. So you kind of get a feeling for how often you get these gifts. And so the letter of Peter says, hold on to them like a lamp in a bright place. You know, I have to remember that when I came in this morning and half the heat wasn't working. And or someone complains about the parking, or I have to remember it when someone contacts me because their son is dying, and they want me to come and be with them, and then I can go to that place and say, I know where God's heart is, and His heart for His people, And that's what I need to live from and I need to convey. So we're given these gifts and glimpses of glory. And so what really expresses that for me so well is the 23rd Psalm. Yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow and deep darkness, or some translations, though I walk through the valley of shadow and death, you are with me. There is glory. There is a life, and this is the life we really need to be sure we're investing in. Yes, we need to eat and drink and be merry and make plans and take care of ourselves as best we can. That honors God. But we need to also honor God's Son who in that mountaintop experience, when Peter and the others fall on their face because they're overshadowed with brightness and their plan to build shrines has been nixed, a voice says, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." And that's what we make the foundation of our lives. Him. Jesus the Christ. We look to him. We ground ourselves in him. We listen to him day after day through the dark places, through the valley of shadow, through death. We cling to that because he was the one who went to ashes and then was raised. And he shows us another glimpse, and that's where we're going with Lent. From the Mount of Transfiguration through the valley to Easter. There's light. So when you make your journey of Lent this year, make it knowing, holding fast to the light. Yea, though I walk through the valley in the shadow, you are with me. Your rod and your staff, your strength, will comfort me. Amen.